and hit start recording. And I'm just going to go stream of consciousness into this, but I want to give my YouTube family on LSX Gaming a look at the progress that I think I've made over the last 3 years running a store mainly on eBay, but selling things online, sometimes locally. I do buying and selling and trading. But for the most part, I'm an eBay reseller and I sell vintage gear, audio equipment, retro video games. I really would like to focus on video games, but I also love old tape decks and anything that is like that that I can find, books and media from the era. I have some in television games. As a matter of fact, about 3 years ago, I think I made a video. It may or may not actually exist, so don't go looking for it. Trust me, you don't want to see it. But I had more in television games here and less other stuff. I also have other rooms full of items now that I have built up a little bit of an inventory with, but some of those have sold, is what I'm saying. And so I have actually been able to start an eBay store. I went from not having a store at all to getting to a point once you get, is it 100 listings a month? I forget what the number is. They start to charge you a fee, an insertion fee per listing. And at some point, it makes sense to get the store subscription. Also, by doing that, you get a quarterly coupon to buy eBay branded boxes and tape and things like that that have helped me. I use the eBay boxes. I use a lot of other supplies now, though, that are not just eBay. So that's one of the biggest things changed. But let me put up this whiteboard because the idea I had in mind behind this video for a long time is once I got to a certain level in my store of consistent inventory level, I kind of started to picture, okay, if I am consistently buying and selling and I have this much in my store, what will I make per week? What will I make per month or per year, for the time cycle? I wrote these numbers down after a lot of looking at it different ways, and I haven't erased this board in probably at least a year or 2 years at something like that. And I want to look at these numbers, some of which might be cut off a little bit on the top. Oh no, you can see it all. It is kind of getting a reflection. So anything that I write on there, I don't know if I'll write anything on there, so we'll just avoid writing. But I want to show you what I was thinking, and then we're going to compare that and see what am I actually doing. To an extent, this is not going to be very detailed. This is not going to be a video for the math nerds. We can nerd out about math some other time, but I don't have time to. That's tedious. That takes a lot of intentionality and putting things into columns and things like that. That I just it would take too long. So what I wrote up here on the board, first let's look at that. Listing rate $250 a week, um, $50 a day. Sales rate $25 a week. So I was thinking at the time I would list $250 of items worth of listings per week and expect to see to start with about $25 of that on average sell per week. That's a very preliminary number because it went up from there pretty fast. Except, or the sales, I would say the sales rate went up. The listing rate, though, I still to this day, there may be weeks that I don't list because I'm doing other things. Okay. So it's because I'm not necessarily always working on the store, but when I'm working on the store, I'm trying to come up with a way to consistently grow so that I don't do $1,000 and then, oh, I burned out. Now I don't do this at all anymore. I wanted to build up slowly. So that's one of my guiding philosophies. Then looking at inventory levels, at some point I didn't even have $1,000 of items listed. I just had, some car parts that I was wanting to sell. There were maybe $100 or something like that, and some game. I just started to buy some games. I'd bought some consoles, but then I found out they were all broken, and it was going to take me time to fix. So I didn't have a lot listed, and I thought, okay, if I have $1,200 listed every 90 days, I should sell half of that. I think that a lot of YouTube um, eBay related channel people of this type of content say you should sell, what is it? What should it be like 1200 every 90 days? You should sell exactly how much your inventory is. It really depends on what you sell, what your strategy is, but I've heard that maybe put out there before. There's some kind of turnover rate that was considered good at some point. Which that would boil down to, in this case, this would be half of that turnover rate, to be on the conservative side, right? Because I'm trying to do this on the low end so that I'll overshoot it and have so much money I won't know what to do with. That'd be $200 a month and $50 weekly. So that's double the $25 a week rate. Maybe I had $600 listed at the time. And I was also, by the way, I was working for Domino's when I started doing this too. So it's not like I just had, you know, a year. It's some people jump into this with already have saved up a good nest egg to get started. I'm kind of bootstrapping it. So that's, again, keep that all in mind. Then I just took those numbers and I plotted it out. Okay, if I have 1200, that's where I think it'll be. 2400, it should be here. And then I did 3600 because that's like times 2 times 3. And then on a higher end where I thought I wanted to see, okay, where then do I need to be in order to sell enough in a week that that's how much I want to make out of the eBay store, at least the bare minimum. And then I came to 24,000, a number of different ways. I don't remember all the ways I came to that now, but this formula that comes out to $7,200 in sales every 90 days. Or, and I'm thinking that's a profit figure, not just a gross figure. That would have to be after expenses and things. 2,400 a month and 600 a week. And I guess I figured at 600 a week, I can do some delivery gigs, which I used to do, which I don't really do anymore for a lot of reasons we won't get into. But I figured I could supplement that and then turn that into kind of a basic livable income for me while I grow the store even more. And then from there, I could say, okay, do I want more inventory or do I want to sell faster? Do I want to get higher dollar items in my store or do I want cheap stuff that sells fast? So I figured that was a good place to start working from. Well, about the beginning of this year, it's been a few months at this point, and I have a cat. This is staying in the video. If the cat comes on the video, we're not editing this for YouTube because it's fun. It's just better this way. Oh, and I didn't start the music, so there's no music. Maybe I don't even want to add in the music. So this will be a uh, spoken word only video and possibly a cat video if he jumps in here, making me nervous because he's looking at things. You know how cats are. Okay, so I reached the level of not 24,000 but of 12,000, which is half that in this in my store inventory. So I'm going to pull up on a screen that you can't see but will actually help me speak to these numbers as it pulls up, and I'm going to look at my, I guess the overview will help me. And I'm going to tell everybody right now my current 90-day sales figure is 2684. And I'm rounding to, I mean, I guess 2680. Let's call it 2600 is going to be easier to deal with because that's closer to 24, which one half would be 12. So, anyways, my sales is about 2600 and my active listings, total inventory of what I've listed it for, my asking price. Some things are best offer, some things will never sell. I have about 11,390 listed. It was over 1,200, but I've actually gotten better at making things sell when I list them. Gotten better at buying things that will sell quickly. That there's kind of an education period to it. It's not talked about in a lot of these videos and content that I've found, and probably because if I was editing this, I may edit some of this out. That may be why a lot of it gets left out because it sounds boring, right? But once I got to 12,000, which is half of the 24, my peak number, which is about that same time, was around 4,500 on the 90 day. What did I say? 7,200 for 24. So 42 at 12 would be like 8,400. So pretty close at 24. I would actually be a little bit higher at that, but that is a high number, and that's not accounting for some expenses. So I'm kind of in the ballpark, is really what I'm getting to. And that's why I've left this unerased the whole time, is because as things were growing, slowly I got better at listening. Slowly I got better at sourcing, like I just talked about, diversifying my methods of sourcing, but also, you know, being consistent at certain, making relationships at the flea markets, and some people I've even talked to through marketplace sales have followed up with me later because I didn't haggle them on the price like crazy. Or I didn't like just try to, they're selling a collection. I'm like, well, let me just buy this one game out of your collection. I just said, okay, I'll pay what you're asking. And that has led to giving me better opportunities to keep this going. It's not at the level I wanted it to be. It has been very grueling in that sense. I've watched some videos of successful YouTuber um, resellers in this same niche that do garage sales, that do the Goodwill bins, that do flea markets. And many of them have been doing it longer, granted. Maybe 3 years into it, they were about where I am. But some people make it sound like 3 months into it, you've you don't need a job anymore. You're fully on your own and you're doing fine. Maybe, okay, again, maybe if you have $24,000 to invest right away, and I had a little bit, I had a few $1,000s to start buying things at the beginning of this that I had saved up that was prepped to go. You've got to have something, unless you just have, so you could start with your own collection perhaps, and I think some people do that, but you have to be able to source things, otherwise you won't have anything to sell. So you have to do both. And I kind of forget where I was going with that, but that's basically what I wanted to say, was that you have to be able to progressively develop these different areas, just like in a business. Imagine that you have that business where you could just drop 24 grand and make some mistakes. I think that's what I wanted to say, was that I also didn't want to spend a bunch of money up front and then find out I made a mistake and I can't recover that money. By doing smaller purchases, only a couple $100s at a time, only $20 at a time in some cases if they're in-person purchases. I don't like to make small online shipments just because it's kind of a hassle. Um, by doing smaller purchases, I'm able to learn these lessons and kind of learn along the way with minimal baggage. So if I could sum everything up, it would basically be in that is to, I was about to say, imagine yourself as a fully functioning business with employees. I try to think of it like the offices I used to work in when I worked full time in corporate America. And you have divisions that handle different tasks. Those tasks must be done. You can't, you just say, well, we're not going to do shipping this week because I'm busy. I have to, if something sells, I have to ship. I don't have an employee to ship something for me. Now I'm starting to look at, can I take a little bit of the money that I'm making and hire somebody to help me list or do things like that? But even that, until you max out your own hours, doesn't necessarily make sense. And I still have more time in the day, more time in the week that I could devote to doing that, or just getting faster at it when I do it and more focused about it. Um, but you have to consider these different departments. I would have a listing department, I would have a shipping department. You have customer service. People ask questions, people negotiate, people send you offers. You've got to have all these different ways to deal with it. And by the way, you've got every week, you've got to go out and source more things. You've also got to be good about your pricing mechanisms. And are you aware of changes in the market, and you have listings that are up there that are stale? What are you doing with those? Are you making sales? There's a lot that you have to do. And so for me, looking into it 3 years in, I can see that now. I could kind of imagine it at the beginning. So if you're somebody who is just starting at it, I think now might actually be a better time than when I started, because we were in the midst of super high inflation. There is still inflation. Don't let anybody tell you that that's gone away and everything's cool now. Some of this stuff takes a long time to actually bake into prices, and things, food may go up at one point, video games may go up at another point. People also would talk about 2020 COVID era. People were getting cooped up at home, so they bought a bunch of games and retro game prices went up. I looked into that. If you actually check out the price changes on a few um, highly desirable titles, especially like on N64 and some other retro systems, PlayStation 2, Xbox era, some of those prices really did jump up. But if you look at the overall price of sales of games, not what people are asking for it, but what they actually sell for most games, it didn't really shoot up then. It's just been kind of a steady there's a time frame. There's 20 years old is about the bottom of the value for anything, for cars, for video games. But after that, the nostalgia kicks in and they get more scarce. There's fewer copies available and the price will go up. Well, why did that go up on like an N64? Well, because there's a lot more N64 games than there are N64s. Also, the games typically don't wear out unless maybe they have a battery in them, but that's pretty easy to fix. But the consoles can get destroyed, and they take up more space. They have capacitors that can go out. So there's lots of reasons, is what I'm saying, why the price of some things may go up. And that's something you have to keep in mind as a buyer, but also as a reseller. Is some games have 6,000 listings out there and only 300 have sold in the last 90 days on eBay. And some people are asking double the price for the games that other people are asking for the same ones, thinking, I'll just hold out for that sale. I'll promote it. I'll advertise it. I'll pay extra for promotion. Well, you're not really making that money then. Okay, you're not making all of it. And you may have to wait 3 times as long to get the sale as pricing it in the range of where it's actually selling. So that would be my advice, off the top of my head, and that's pretty much the end, I think, of what I wanted to say there. We'll see where the next, hopefully, 3 years go from here. I would like to see these numbers, 7,200 number, 1,200, 12,000, excuse me, $12,000 worth of inventory. And I wouldn't honestly mind even lowering that number. Now that I know, for me, what sells the best hasn't been video games. Consoles are great, but it's difficult to get the top most desirable games. So a lot of stuff just sits. If I could focus more on consoles, then I could do that. And then as I've discovered, I can fix tape players, tape decks, turntables to a minimal extent. I can do some things. Excuse me. Now I've got like the hiccups and stuff like that. It tells me I need to wrap this video up. Um, if by focusing on those, if I can increase the volume of those, that's stuff that will sell really fast, especially when priced at a bargain. So maybe this tape player is worth $65 and I can sell it for $50. It'll sell really fast. Some things have been selling for me fast that way. That's another lesson to learn, is that you can have, I can make, like, well, if I sold it for 50, let's just say 50 was what I made after eBay fees, and I paid $10 for it, so I make $40. If I hold out for $55, maybe I could make $40 twice in the same time it took me to get $55 once. So that's the type of refinement that I'm looking for going forward. It'll also make my office a lot more organized, because that's been the challenge, is working in keeping myself within a confined space, which means almost all of my inventory is in one room and one closet. I've got another closet, and then I have some stuff that goes in my garage, but it's usually not related to computers or video games when I do that. Oh, there's one other thing. Let me bring this in the video too, and then I'm wrapping it up. There are risks involved in selling on eBay, or selling in person, or selling on Poshmark or anywhere, that you don't think about. And that for some people, maybe it's super easy to, like, if you have a full-time job, this is something you're only doing on the side. I would actually like to be doing something else full time and make this a side income. but I don't have that other income going yet. So, anyways, if you're doing that though, if you have your salary, so to speak, is taken care of, and you can invest all of your money back into the business, you can accelerate this timetable. If you if you learn the lessons along the way and you don't make any big screw ups, you can absorb certain costs that I cannot. For me, a $200 return is a big deal. I got it may have been, it was around $200 of a vintage stereo, and somebody returned the same stereo, but had clearly swapped out the wood grain panels on the side and sent back a non working unit. I think they just replaced the internal, like, amplifier board or something like that because it still turns on, but no sound comes out of it. I have zero support. I was told to, booger off, let's put it that way, by support on that sale when I sent the pictures. I did everything. I said the only option I had was to refund the customer. And even if I don't, there's a very strong chance that I will be forced to refund the customer. And so I at least had them send it back. And that gave me the proof. I wish I could press charges. Maybe I can. I think I've read that you can, but I don't have time to do that. And I don't have $200 now. And I can't sell this unit that was once worth $200. So that is a big risk factor. And there's other risks like that. But that hurt. I mean, on the ego personal level, right? It shouldn't. I need to think of it just as a business. On a smaller return, I can do that, but you may run into things like that. So it's not always a bed of roses. And as other resellers that I do look up to in this space have said, it's not like it used to be. Selling, you used to be able to list almost anything in the world on eBay and somebody's going to go buy it. And it also used to be much more auction oriented, not so much now. You just have to be able to adapt. I don't believe that you need to use AI. I don't use any AI. The only thing I really use AI for is product research. Like, hey, you know, Chat GPT, I have, uh, you know, a reel-to-reel tape player with this name on it, and I can't find any information about it. What can you tell me? It's got these colors on it, and sometimes that'll help me figure out what something is. That maybe that's why people are passing it up, is because they can't just Google image search and find out what it is right off the bat. I found some good items that way. So it can be done. It can be done better than I'm doing it, but also just doing it is really, if you don't list anything, it's not going to sell. So if you're interested in doing it, just start listing some stuff. Um, don't get too worked up in doing it perfectly, because you're not going to. And I don't do it anywhere close to perfectly. And some people might look at me and think that I have it all put together, but if you actually watch the day-to-day operations, it's not quite so much. But also, I can do this. Give yourself credit, for the progress that you do make. I've got almost a $12,000 inventory eBay store now. I have repeat customers. I have raving reviews, and that's an encouragement. I don't focus on the negative reviews. I know they're there. I know well, I don't know how many. There's not very many, but I focus on the positives, is what I'm trying to say. And that is the state of my eBay store in 2026, quarter two, beginning of quarter two. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to end this YouTube video, and I've got some games to play on Twitch. You can also follow me. This is LSX Gaming on YouTube. On Twitch, I'm just Foa Ryan. That's kind of my online screen name. And I stream on Twitch, but it's sort of related to the store because I also just got finished showing a bunch of new inventory for the store. Windows 98. We just looked at those. You could see this. You could have seen me unbox Windows 98. Actually, Windows XP, as it turned out, was what was inside it on Twitch. So follow me there. There's links, places. If you want to find them, you know how to do that. If you got here and you got to the end of the video, I believe in you. You can do those other things too. So have a good one, and I may come back at some point in the near future with an edited video too.